Hey, what is up guys? My name is Emiliano. A lot of you guys already know my story, but just to recap for this video, I basically trained calisthenics and weightlifting for about 3 years, eating everything that I could lay my hands on because I was afraid that if I didn't eat 500 calories above my maintenance, I wasn't going to build any muscle. Now I realize that I could not be more wrong. One day I decided that I really looked like shit, so I decided to cut for about 6 months. And I would like to say that during those 6 months, I learned way more than I did during the past 3 years before that. And because of everything that I learned, the knowledge that I acquired, and the small things, small habits that I now incorporate into my life, I do not gain weight. Kind of. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with the 80-20 rule, and this totally applies here. 20% of the things that I know, small habits like these, is what yields 80% of my results today. Now, before I do get into the video and explain to you guys exactly what I learned and the small habits which I now implement into my daily life, which help me continue to build more muscle without putting on a lot of fat, I just wanted to mention that I do still have a few spots left for my free one-on-one coaching, 30 days for free. Just go to the link in the description or the pinned comments, fill that out, and I'll reach out. Once you understand what I explained in this video, you will never be fat again. Let me show you guys. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you guys, right? At the end of the day, I'm sure all of you guys already know, you're gonna have to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose fat. Now, I put a big highlight on the word fat, and that is because there's a difference between fat loss and weight loss. And that is basically what I'm going to rant about during this whole video. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as the video goes on. However, I just want to let you guys know that I basically sabotaged myself during this weight loss journey because I didn't understand the difference between those two. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with this, but usually whenever you start losing weight, and this happened to me as well, in the first 2 to 3 months, I lost about 50 to 60% of the weight during that whole time, right? So basically, I lost most of the weight. Notice once again, weight during the first 2 to 3 months. So basically, most of the weight that I actually lost came in the first couple of weeks, couple of months, and then after that, it started to slow down. And that's very common. A lot of people will notice that. They'll see, they'll be super motivated until, they hit a plateau, that kind of thing. And they don't understand the actual fundamentals of what causes weight gain, weight loss, and fat loss. So they just end up, binge eating, yo-yo dieting, that kind of thing. Now, once again, I keep using the word weight and fat very strategically because 30 pounds, I lost 30 pounds of weight, not necessarily just fat. There's no way I could have lost 30 pounds of fat. I wasn't really that fat. Come on, guys. But anyways, the point is that as more and more time went on, as I got to 165, 160, around that range, right, there were some days where I didn't notice a lot of progress. Even some days I would gain a pound or two and I got very confused. I started to react. I started to do a bunch of cardio, that kind of thing. And a lot of people do the same thing. That's a very big mistake. And if you really think about it, it's impossible for you to gain 1 pound of fat from one day to the other, especially because sometimes you know that you're tracking calories. I track my calories. I use an app where I track every single calorie that I ate, and I even got to the point where I was literally weighing every single gram of food that I put into my mouth. However, there were still some days where I would put on weight. And if you really think about it, in case you did not know, 1 pound of fat is equal to 3,500 calories. And there is no way in hell that I was eating 3,500 calories above my maintenance from one day to the other. So what was really going on? Let alone 1 pound. A lot of people will gain 5 or 6 pounds from one day to the other. And that all comes from, you guys guessed it, water weight. And where does water weight come from? Well, you guys guessed it, carbs. Specifically, usually simple carbs, right? Rice, your bread, freaking cinnamon rolls. Whether it is complex carbs or simple carbs, doesn't really matter. 1 gram of carb will make you retain 4 grams of water. And I have a lot of videos explaining this, but just to recap, right? Meaning that even if you were to track every single calorie perfectly, you know for a fact that you were in a calorie deficit because you hit the gym, you did cardio, and you ate, low calorie foods, which are high in volume, that kind of thing, you can still gain weight from one day to the other. So it usually looks like that. People will lose a lot of weight in the first month or two, which is what I did. And then once they start seeing these kinds of things happen, once they hit a plateau, they think they hit a plateau. I did so myself. I saw 1 pound, 2 pounds. I saw the scale go up 2 or 3 pounds from one day to the other, and I started to freak out, right? without realizing that it was just because I was eating a lot of carbs, specifically and especially a lot of carbs close to bedtime, that kind of thing. So of course the day after your body will retain a lot of water, but that is not fat. So not only was I doing a bunch of cardio and reacting, freaking out, but I would literally cut my calories by 500, 600, 700 from one week to the other, simply because I didn't see the rate of weight loss that I was expecting. I was continuing to lose fat, however, because I was so obsessed with getting leaner and leaner and leaner, it just got to the point where I was literally eating 1400 calories per day. Literally. There was times where I was fucking drinking 3, 4, 5, 6 cans of Diet Coke because I was so hungry, but I just couldn't, go over my calories. And sometimes I would wake up at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning hungry as crap, and I started binge eating. Right? And that's not what you want to do. I had brain fog, I had no energy, I couldn't get a pump in the gym. Now, most people will probably not get to this point. You probably would have to get to like a really, really low body fat percentage, which I did get, which was around 10%. For me, that's already pushing it for my biological limit. That's kind of like what my body's already like feeling uncomfortable in. But for most people, once they start getting to 12, 13%, they'll start feeling the same way. And if I'm being completely honest, there is no point. There's no point in getting leaner and leaner and leaner, especially even myself. Like, I had a good amount of muscle beforehand when I was bulky, and then whenever I lost all that weight, yeah, I was looking leaner, but I wasn't necessarily looking better because I still didn't have as much muscle as I wanted to look good. Now that I've learned this, I upped my calories. I do a lot more cardio. That way I'm able to have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to what I eat, that kind of thing. I eat bananas, which is a more high in calorie food, right? I eat my bread, of course, whole wheat. And literally just yesterday, um, I ate this fucking cinnamon rolls. And why is that? Because the whole point of this journey is to teach you guys that as long as you're more aware of what you're eating, the actual calorie density of foods, instead of eating foods that are so packed with calories for such a little amount, like for example, peanut butter, nuts, that kind of thing. It's very rare that you'll see me eating this. I swapped it out for PB Fit, which is way less calories for the same amount of protein. And that is the point. You're supposed to learn how many calories are roughly in foods. So many people are obsessed with thinking that, no, I don't want to live that lifestyle, that kind of thing. And the thing is, you don't have to weigh out every single gram that you eat. I don't do that anymore. I upped my calories and I still track my food in the app that I track my food in, but I do it roughly. I make sure that I'm not going way, way over my calories, but at the same time, I know for a fact that it is not 100% accurate. And I can do that because I'm conscious of the foods that I eat. I eat foods which I know are worth the calories. Like for example, a banana. This is a more high in calorie food. Technically, it's a fruit that's like 150 calories per banana, right? That's a pretty good amount compared to something like watermelon or strawberries. But I still eat it because I enjoy it and because I know what's going into my body. I know how many calories I can eat per day, especially because I do a lot of cardio, that kind of thing. So the point is that you don't have to make calorie counting boring. You don't even have to log it into an app. Just as long as you know how to teach your brain to recognize what foods are not worth the calories, like maybe things like peanut butter, nuts, that kind of thing, doesn't mean that you can never eat them, but they're typically not worth the calories because they're not very filling, they don't have that much nutritional value. There's a lot better options. Yesterday that I ate this cinnamon roll, I knew that I was gonna gain weight, and I did. My average right now is 154, 155, and today I weighed 156, almost 157, and I was aware of that. And that's the point. Because I'm more aware of it now, I'm not freaking out. I'm not, crash dieting, yo-yo dieting, lowering my calories. I'm more aware of these things so I don't crash out. I continue to stay consistent. Of course, I'm not going to continue eating this on the daily, but I do eat it from time to time. I literally have this. I eat Rice Krispies from time to time, even though they don't have that much nutritional value, because I know what's going into my body and I know that 80% of what you eat is what counts the most. This is only 20%. Carbs are not bad. Carbs are actually a very, very important macronutrient when it comes to muscle building. If you don't eat enough carbs, I've gone into the habit of eating a lot of rice every single time that I'm going to the gym. Beforehand, Why? Because if you eat and you stock up on carbs beforehand, before going to the gym, carbs is your body's main energy source. And if you eat a good amount of them beforehand, it's going to be a lot more likely that you have more energy, you'll get a better pump, you'll be able to push yourself past the limit, stimulate more muscle growth than you would if you had not eaten any carbs at all. And if you're aware that you're probably going to be a little bit heavier if you did eat a little bit more carbs one day, it's going to be a lot less likely that you're going to start binge eating, crash dieting, freaking out, that kind of thing. Another big lesson, being skinnier did not make me happier at all. I didn't look much better because I didn't have that much muscle, unless you're quite literally trying to compete in a bodybuilding show, that kind of thing, and that shouldn't be until you have like at least 3, 4, 5 years of training on your back. There really is no reason for you to get to 10, 9, 8% body fat. And finally, I do gain weight, but this doesn't mean that it's clickbait, right? I do gain weight, but I don't gain fat, at least not from one day to the other. There's days where I gain 1 or 2 pounds all of a sudden, but I end up losing it after 2 or 3 days because I go back to my maintenance. I don't continuously keep on eating in a surplus. There are some days which I probably do eat in a surplus, but I make sure that the day after that, most of the days out of the week, I'm going to stay in my calories. And I'm not restricting myself at all. I'm still counting my calories. I still eat foods that I enjoy, the peanut butter, Rice Krispies, that kind of thing. But I make sure that for the most part, I'm eating foods which are low in calories, high in volume, high in nutritional value, and high in protein. This way, I'm able to minimize as much fat gain as possible while maximizing as much muscle growth. But yes, the single most highest return on your investment activity that you can probably get from this video, start tracking your calories, start teaching your brain how many calories are on average on these types of food, this kind of food, right? If it's worth it to eat peanut butter, nuts, eggs, that kind of things, maybe swapping out eggs for egg whites, regular meat, maybe a ribeye steak for something a little bit leaner like top sirloin, chicken breast instead of chicken thigh. And yeah, weight fluctuates. And if you're in control, you're more aware of these things, you're not going to freak out. It's going to make muscle building as well as a fat loss phase a lot more enjoyable, a lot more controlled, because you're more aware of these things, you know what's actually going on. And yes, I have cheat meals. Like I said, I eat this from time to time. I enjoy what I eat. But if I'm being completely honest, once you get to a point where you actually know what's really going into your body, you don't even crave cheat meals anymore. You don't crave eating a whole pizza or eating a bunch of carbs, that kind of thing. And I'm a lot leaner. I'm not as lean as I was back then, but I am a lot leaner than I was at the beginning of the book. But I still have a lot more muscle mass now because I eat carbs, I eat things that I like, it's enjoyable, and I'm able to get really, really good pumps in the gym and really enjoy my workouts, which is why I'm able to stay consistent and continue to build more muscle. Yeah, the secret is balance. Finding a balance between cheat meals, eating good food, foods that you enjoy, but at the same time, they're actually healthy for you. And yeah, to this day, I still track what I eat very, very roughly, not as pristine and as strict as I did back then, but I still do it because I like knowing what's going into my body, and it allows for me to adjust and, analyze that kind of thing for whenever I want to put on a little bit more weight or maybe put it down, that kind of thing. But relatively, I'm always staying around the same weight because muscle gain is a slow process, so there is no point in putting on a lot of weight in a short period of time, because you know for a fact that most of that is going to be fat gain. And honestly, guys, this takes time. Yeah, it takes experience, but the good thing is that it doesn't have to be your experience. That is why, once again, I do still have a few spots left for free one-on-one coaching. If you guys want to be coached by me completely for free, I'm doing that promotion right now, 30 days. Just go to that link in the description or go to the pinned comments, fill that out, and I'll reach out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.